was that the Carol Burnett used to do? I'm so glad we had this time.
That's at the end.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
She sings that song at the end.
Listen, y'all, I know we're coming on. Hey, but good evening.
Oh, this ain't no joke. It's virtual stuff.
Welcome. Hey, listen.
Hey, Kim.
We know
our first one on.
that
We should be
last.
giving prizes to people. That's first one's coming out.
Listen, you're going to get a chocolate-covered banana.
What? You can't mail that to Kim.
Oh, okay.
Ooh. Honey, forgive him. He's special.
Hey, look.
Okay, I forgot to put the do not disturb.
Yeah, the production team left us alone, and that was probably a problem.
Who? Okay.
I'm just saying. All right.
Okay.
Anyways, hey, we were not with you last week, of course, and we're grateful that you're here with us tonight.
Yes.
Hi,
Bam. I'm sorry.
Giving.
Keep talking. Don't pay me no attention.
I'm trying not to.
He don't do like I do. I speak to people when they come on.
Listen.
I speak.
Okay. Listen. I know they're there, and at some point I'll say hi, and everybody needs to
hi,
personalize
Lisa.
it. Personalize it. Okay, I'm just saying.
I don't know who it is over here. It's probably Christian Parker over here.
Oh, listen, stop.
She usually the first one.
Stop.
On. Okay.
Lord have mercy. You know, see what production left me with. All right. Anyways, it's good. It's good to be with you guys. We are back at it. Things I wish I'd known before we got married. Over 300,000 copies sold of Gary Chapman's book. Listen, just in case, and this gives me a minute, to just say to some of you all who are coming on, and if you have others that you show this to and they go, where have you guys been? Where's the footprints? Well, we started out in chapter 1 talking about, I wish I'd known that being in love is not an adequate foundation for building a successful marriage. We then went to chapter 2. I wish I'd known that romantic love has 2 stages. Then we went to chapter 5. That's it, chapter 5. I wish I'd known that apologizing is a sign of strength. Chapter 6. I wish I'd known that forgiveness is not a feeling. Then we doubled back and did 3 and 4, chapter 3. I wish I'd have known that the saying, like mother, like daughter, like father, like son, is not a myth. And then we did, I wish I'd known how to solve disagreements without arguing. And finally, the last time we were together, we talked about, I wish I'd known that toilets are not self-cleaning. So we literally have done the first 7 chapters in this book. Okay, first 7. Reverend Brown, hello, sir.
Yes.
We are now going to skip 8 and 9. 8 says, I wish I'd known that we needed a plan for handling our money. I skipped that. We're not going to go into the financial counseling. Chapter 9, I wish I'd known that mutual sexual fulfillment is not automatic. We'll leave that unless we get 100,000 of you clamoring to ask for.
We're not skipping over that one. We will do that chapter
at some point. Yeah. All right, what we are doing tonight is chapter 10. I wish I'd have known that I was marrying into a family. Hey, listen, I think this is a big chapter, very important. I wish I'd have known that I was marrying into a family. Yeah, we think that we're marrying individuals, but you have a lot of other invisible people that are coming with that relationship, with that piece of matrimony. And so it's really important. I spent 2.5 hours with my son and daughter-in-law to be, as she is, soon to be get rid of the in-law. Anyways, Josh and Nisi. And love this chapter only because I think it is a great source of stress. Honestly, great source of stress. And if one does not marry well, and what do I mean by that? Maybe there's issues, unresolved issues that haven't been taken care of. Or if there's some unknowns in the equation, or it can be a myriad of stuff. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and try to figure it all out. But I think it's important to realize that you're marrying into a family, whether you know it or not, because there's a whole lot with that other individual that comes to the story.
And when he says someone who doesn't marry well, it has no meaning on the person themselves. Whoever you choose to marry.
Yes, true.
Whoever you choose to marry. And I have to throw in there, for whatever reason you went into this thing, you just have to be assured that you are marrying a family. And I mean, you may not be marrying into the family. You may be far away from them. You may be around the corner from them. You may have to live with them for a while and that kind of thing. So it can go from one extreme to the next extreme, or it can go back to that extreme. But even if you don't see his family on a regular basis or her family on a regular basis, you have still married into the family, because that family that they were a part of is a part of them.
Well, we're going to get into all that. We're going to get all that. And listen.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah, we can try to explain it, but Gary does a great job of just outlining some stuff. Now, I'm going to do something tonight. Sister Woodard was wondering. She said, this is a long chapter. It is. So what I'm going to basically do tonight is go over the 5 tenets, the 5 pivotal points in this lesson. I'm going to mention them. And then there are some great questions at the end of this chapter. But as I said in some notes to self, I think this chapter is a big to-do. It's very important. Know full well that you have a love story and you have a life story. All of us do. Okay? And so our life story is going to impose itself on our love story. And that's how we're going to get some things that are going to happen. Okay? All right. Let me have a word of prayer. Let me put a question on your mind already. And here's the question that I want to put on your mind. All 3, 4 platforms, whatever we have going tonight. I mean, the question a few weeks ago, do you know the love language of your partner? Okay, your intended. Okay, your spouse. Do you know their love language? How about this? Do you know the love language of their parents? Have you studied? Have you studied the love language of your own parents? And here's why. Because the love language of your parents and that dynamic, and the love language of your partner's parents and that dynamic, it has a lot of life, a lot of breath. Those two, value, yeah. Yes, those two dynamics are going to play on your dynamic. So this is not just, hey, I figured out what it is. No, I see the dynamic, because you and your spouse, your partner, may not be the same two as your parents or the same two as his parents. And what you then are trying to do is say, this ought to be a part of our relationship, and you don't even have the right prescription. That's the point that Dr. Woodard is making. Okay? So if we have 2 over here, one's quality time and the other's gifts, and then we have one over here, acts of service, and words of affirmation, and the two of you are different, but you're saying, well, that's what my parents did, and the other one's saying, that's what my parents did. Those are three different dynamics. And I want to stress to you, those dynamics are not the same. Okay? I've had a lot of time to think about this. They're not the same. Got to be careful. All right, let's pray. Father, thank you for this time. Grateful for an opportunity to come before our friends who join us in this journey, talking about things I wish I'd known before we got married. We missed last week, so a few may not be here tonight. And they might watch later on. We're praying for whether they're on live or they show up at another time. We're praying that the reality of these moments and the spirit with which we give them will be conveyed to those who hear, and that something will be said that will spark a conversation that will move someone from one position to another, and that we all can see ourselves in a more positive light. Because there's nothing like being in a relationship that has a lot of negatives, and we cannot see the positive in us. Help us to see it someplace else and allow that vision to mirror, to impress itself on our situation so that we can rise above the situation in our own lives. Thank you for Dr. Chapman. Thank you for these words. I certainly want to thank you for my wife that gives me opportunity to just sit back and reflect on this chapter. It's in the name of Jesus we pray and ask it all. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Now, I believe that you all can read, and I certainly want you to read. I would read the introduction, but for the sake of time, and maybe I'll come back and grab some things. Here's what I want. There are 5 key issues that I want to raise in this chapter, okay, that he raises, I want to raise. So I want to focus on the first relationship with in-laws that's built around holidays. One of the first issues that will likely demand your attention is holidays. For those who are following, this is on page 103. At the top of the list will be Christmas. Everybody knows how big Christmas is. Okay, everybody wants somebody to show up at Christmas time. All right, and in Western culture, most families get together at Christmas than at any other holiday. And often the problem is that his parents want both of you at their house on Christmas Day, and her parents want the same. If they both live in the same town, that may be possible. If they live in the same state, it could be Christmas Eve at one set of parents, Christmas Day with the other. However, if they live several states away, you may have to negotiate Christmas with his parents this year, her parents next year. Spend Thanksgiving with the parent or parents who won't see you at Christmas. There may be other holidays that will be deemed extremely important for one or both of your families. Listen, holidays. There are traditions built around holidays. If I don't read it all, it's okay. Holiday traditions. And we all love those warm, fuzzy feelings that we get around certain things. You know, waking up on Christmas Day in our pajamas, and everybody comes to breakfast in their pajamas. And, you know, we sing Christmas carols and we open gifts and whatnot, and that's Christmas. And if it were to venture in another direction, it wouldn't be Christmas. Hey, listen, there is a lot of stress on young couples about holidays. Now, after a while, you soon learn to, navigate the circumstances. I want to suggest to you that Christmas, although it is really big in folks' eyes, an alternative, definitely, as Gary says, is Thanksgiving. And they're only typically about 4 weeks apart. Okay? So it's not a long delay, kind of can celebrate, certainly not months apart. Another thing are special birthdays. Okay. And we all know, okay, they're milestones 30, 50, 75, 100. In this day, I think they're 90s. The folk are backing up and
Any
throwing
of
big
them
ones.
tens, yeah.
Yeah. You're throwing
70, 80, 90, 100.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're literally on those. And we could say, hey, listen, your mom's turning 90 this year. Why don't we plan on birthday there and Christmas, at the other set of in-laws?
Mhm.
And then we accomplish a couple things, okay, on those high points, those high days. Okay. I think there is a lot of negotiation that needs to go around. Holidays don't need to stress it real big, but they're a source of tension. You're supposed to be calm, relaxed, loving Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and we can stress ourselves out to the max. Not the right gift, haven't bought everybody a gift. I want to suggest to you one thing in this day and time, have rotating Christmas lists. I'm tossing it out there because there's times where you really want to do more than just a $5 gift exchange for somebody, okay? Unless you want to go buy them one cigar or one pair of socks or some, rotate it. Think about it. But anyways, holiday traditions, okay? Want to give you that one. Next, expectations. I could not get off of this with this young couple. And listen, and here's why. Because I want to stress to you. Oh, shoot. I think I may have did that. Okay, sorry. That light problem was me. Here's why I want to stress this, even before I read this. Although the young couple has expectations, parents have expectations, in-laws have expectations, and we just assume that they're going to meet our expectations and they're going to live up to our expectations. And can I put a little caveat? Parents, loved ones, stop putting high expectations on your young families, your children, okay, to live out your life. Okay, I'm there. I didn't even ask Sister Witter for permission to say that.
And it's not necessarily that you want to live out your life. You just have a vision in mind.
Yes.
Because sometimes you want their life to be better than yours.
Well, and better doesn't mean it has to go in the same direction.
I know that, but the
yes,
full intent is not necessarily I want you to live life like I lived it.
Right.
I want you to live a good life.
Yes. And I think that
life pleasing to God.
Well, and there are some caveats to that. And yes, we will get to that. Paul is going to say some things, and I'll wait to say those. Your in-laws will also have expectations. And unless you have spent a great deal of time with them before marriage, you may be blindsided by these expectations. One husband said, I found out the hard way that when my wife and I go out to a restaurant with her parents, they expect to pay for our meal one time, and they expect me to pay for it the next time. Now, I don't know why you do that unless you say that, but anyways.
Right. He needed to be told.
Right. I was so embarrassed when my wife said, it's your time to pay. And that'll get you looking cross-eyed. When we go out with my parents, they always pay for our meal. It had never crossed my mind that they were expecting me to pay. Listen, with our four young grown children, that happens a lot. And now I've got kids that can pay for the meal too. Probably they should be paying, but anyways, they go out. I will reach for the wallet, because I always had that. I always saw that from my own father, saw it from my father-in-law, that the older, helped those younger ones. But we've got to remember that these kids, they work, they want to feel like it's on them. That may be something we negotiate before we go out the door. Okay.
And that typically is what happens.
Well, not with Jasmine, because she'll go and she'll pay for the meal before you ever finish it.
Right.
Yeah, she's learned. She's done some things. She's done that a couple of times.
Or if she invites us out, she'll say, "I'm buying." She'll say it.
Yes.
So there's no confusion. And when we invite the kids to go out, they already know if mom and dad invited us, they're paying.
It's on us.
Right.
Listen, expectations. Now, that's pretty low level. That's a real low ceiling. You know, who's going to pay for the meal? Here's a higher expectation. When the children come along, who gets to keep them? Now, we might say, well, they can go here or they could go there. That may not be the case. There may be some strong feelings. And in my book, that's not a low level, that's up here. Because that's a real source of stress. And if one set of in-laws gets to take the children on vacation, does that mean the other in-laws get to do the same? Or they spend the summer? Or some other activity? Who gets to come to the programs? Who gets an opportunity, to babysit? Listen, there are some stressors that come with children that we did not think about. Okay. And I want to even go back and catch this thing about naming. Well, I remember we had a conversation. I certainly didn't have an objection. I named one of our children after me. And then Bev says, I wouldn't name one after my dad. Well, first of all, I love her dad. Second of all, I didn't have no problem with it. He said, you want to name him after that? That was almost, I'm not going to call it the curse, but he turned out to be just like him. Yeah. And probably Melvin's a lot like me, like his grandfather, who have the same names. Okay. Listen. So the naming privilege. Oh, I'm going to tell you what. And if you've never been in that situation, if you've never heard about the back and forth and the fights over the naming rights of children, okay, well, you did this with your family, and why can't I do this with mine, and blah, blah, blah. Listen, it's points of stress. And that's what I'm getting at, is this whole idea on you're marrying into the family come with expectations. And that word is the key word, I believe, in this whole chapter, expectations. Okay, because who's expecting what? And okay, so when we have the children, I don't know, correct me. Your mom and dad never stayed a night with us when the children were growing up.
We would go and spend the night at their house.
Right.
But the kids never spent the night at mom and daddy's house.
Alone.
We were with them.
Yeah. Now, that might have been a source of contention with them. They never said anything.
I don't think so.
No one dad. He'd line those four up on the chair and say, hey, what's the plan? What's the plan for these four?
But the truth of the matter is none of our children, our children stayed with neither set of our parents overnight by themselves. My mother and father never kept all of them overnight. And mom would and dad would have never kept ours all overnight. We were pretty helicopter parents.
Yeah.
We had four and they were very close in age.
Boom, 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 boom.
And it was more than a notion to leave them with somebody or have somebody come and stay with them. Now we had sisters, particularly Brenda and Bridget, that will come to our house.
Brendan Beasy.
Mm-hmm. That would come to our house and keep them in their environment.
Right.
That wasn't, I mean, I count on one hand when that happened.
Right. And the kids, they liked it. They got some war stories out of it.
Yeah.
But
But I mean, and that was just a decision, I mean, that we made. It wasn't, I mean, that's just the way we were.
right. No, we wanted, and then you probably, okay, I was a lot neurotic.
Mm.
Okay. Wanted kids to be right, maintain them. We understand them best. If something comes up, blah, blah, blah. All right. Watch this. We never spent any time away from those kids until Melvin was 15, our 15th anniversary. Well, he was 14.
He was 14.
Okay. And so we literally we went on that cruise, 15th anniversary, and the kids were like, what are we going to do? Well, they stayed with Aunt Brenda, and we hear the stories about it to today. But they were up to some size. I mean, they certainly weren't small children. They certainly could feed themselves, dress themselves, the whole 9 yards. So, but watch this. So we never did that. Here's expectations. So if we had the same expectations, Jasmine and JJ saying, hey, we never did that with our kids. Those 4 have stayed with us multiple times. Okay, I've lost track. They come over here and they're like, hey, we know where we're at. We're in
over here. We love
we're in familiar grounds. Hey, they wave at mom and dad. Bye, we'll see you later. This is old hat. These 2, they know how to take care of us. They give us what we want, feed us on time. Hey, listen, we're gonna have a good time. Literally, we were at West Baden, Southern Indiana on Saturday.
Yeah.
Come home, Jasmine and JJ, it's their anniversary. They came over shortly thereafter, dropped the 4 off, said goodnight. The 4 of them were happy as pigs in slop. They were here with grandma and grandpa, and the other 2 were off celebrating their anniversary. Listen, expectations.
Yeah.
That's my point. And listen, I can put that on anything. When we talk about families, how about church families? Expectations of church families, expectations of pastor towards people towards pastor.
And pastor's wife.
And pastor's wife. Yes. So expectations are absolutely huge. Okay. But particularly in those close relationships, and we've all heard the stories about the dreaded, and there's occasionally a dreaded father-in-law, but typically the stories of the dreaded mother-in-law who's, you are not treating my daughter right. You're not treating my son right. Let me show you how to do it. And okay, there's some sparks that'll fly. And so my rule of thumb, move far enough away that's not a problem. Listen,
I think if you were to have a conversation with my daughter-in-law and my son-in-law, they would tell you they're Mama Doug. That's Jonathan's name for me. And Mama, that's what Chrissy calls me. She calls me Mama. I've never told them how to love our daughter or our son. I've shared different things with them, but I've never said this is how you need to love her. Not with it unless it was asked for. I don't think I've ever volunteered that. And I don't think I've really had a need to do it. There may have been some times where I've gave a little bit of advice, but Dr. Wood and I pride ourselves in allowing them to be married. And when we're invited into a situation or whatever, we'll give our input. But we are very cautious in how we move forward. We're very prayerful, and you have to be. But I don't know. They may have a different story for me.
I don't think they would. And that's in all honesty. We have been. I certainly know that my own posture has been back here because there is a side. I do have expectations. I have expectations
Yeah,
about
it's
my
not-
daughter,
right.
about
It's
my
not
sons.
to say that we don't have expectations, because we
Right.
do.
Right.
And when those aren't met, we're like,
Right.
but it's like it's a don't you say nothing.
Yes. Can I become emotional?
No.
Yes. But you won't see the emotion beyond my front door. Okay, because I'm not letting that one out the bay. I'm not, because it's too. I could cause a wreck, and that is something I don't want to do. My father-in-law, mother-in-law didn't. Dad had he had great balance. Father-in-law, and my own dad, he was like, "Hey, I don't hear nothing. I don't see nothing. I ain't saying nothing."
I gotta tell you what my mother used to tell me. Well, she told me and my sisters, all of us, when we got married. She said, "Listen," she said, "if he ain't beating you and none of like," she said, "you don't have to tell me nothing." She said, "if he made you mad," she said, "don't tell me nothing." She said, "because see, I'm not loving him, I'm not hugging him, I'm not kissing him, I'm not sleeping with him, and y'all be done made up, and I'm still mad."
Man, is that true?
And she said, "So if I don't need to know, don't tell me." And I said, "Okay, Mama." And I think that's really part of the reason. I mean, when he and I were having troubles, if I needed somebody to talk to, I did not go to my mother.
Do we have trouble? Okay, go ahead.
Occasionally. But I did not voice any resentment or anything that I was feeling negatively to her about this guy right here. And I think that's why to this day, Mama just loves Mel, because I've never said, you know what, he get on my nerves, this, that, the third. No, I don't do
She
that.
knew me before we got married. She loved me before we got married.
Right, she did love me before we got married. So. but she had a valid point. It takes a special kind of parent and a mother or father who can be privy to some things that are going on inside the marriage and still maintain a level of respect and maintain a level of distance to let them work it out. And you have to be very creative, very prayerful, and very careful. But, the one thing my mama says to me when I call and talk to her, and I'll get to talking about him, and she'll say, "You love that yellow man, don't you?" And I said, "Yes, Mama, I do. I love him." I said, "I love him very much." Yeah,
It's mutual.
yes. So, and Daddy already knew,
Her dad and I were like this.
because when he said he wanted to sit down and talk with us before we got married, I looked at him and I said, "Listen, don't mess this up." I said, "What kind of questions are you going to be asking him?" He said, I'll ask him when both of y'all sitting there." And I said, "Well, what are you going to ask him?" And he said, "You'll see when we sit down together."
And she came right back, "Daddy, don't mess this up."
Don't you run my boo off. But
she'd already gone. She switched sides.
and so Mama, she I think that was wise words from her. But if you know you're not going to be able to handle it, to have your children confide in you about what's going on in their marriage, if you know you're not going to be able not to go and choke the other one, then tell them, don't tell me. Don't tell me.
Right, because,
unless you are in some physical danger.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Then, and even at that point, you have to be cautious in how you proceed, because you're not a part of the total dynamic that's going on inside that house. There's some stuff that they ain't told you.
Right.
Amen. They only tell you what they want you to know. They're not telling you everything.
Right. So true. All right. So we've talked about traditions, holiday traditions, expectations. Those are two biggies. Here comes a third one, religious overtones. Okay. Third key issue. Okay. You're marrying into a family, religious overtones. Young wife said, I found out that when we spend the weekend with his parents, they expect us to go to the synagogue with them on Friday nights, even though both of us are Christians. I feel very uncomfortable, but I don't want to hurt their feelings. I'm wondering if, when they come to visit us, they will go to church with us on Sunday. Her husband said, when we go to visit her folks for a weekend, they expect me to wear a suit when I go to church with them on Sunday morning. We attend a contemporary church, and I only have one suit that I bought for my grandmother's funeral 5 years ago. I feel uncomfortable wearing it. See the point? Got to go to a different kind of church. Now, listen, y'all. It's only one church service, and I got it. You got to wear a suit. It's only one day for a couple hours. Listen, we make a lot of issues
Out of one day.
out of one
Oh, my
day,
goodness.
a couple hours. It's not like you got to wear a suit for 12 hours. You're going to church. And if you go to one of these really contemporary services, you got about 45 minutes in there and you're ripping the tie off on your way to the car. Okay. Don't come to Pastor Woodard's church, though, because it'll be about an hour and a half, 2 hours before you can rip that tie off. I bet if you wanted to. Anyways,
He'll do it.
the point
He'll do it.
the point is, listen, religious overtones. And here's where that comes in. Let's take this. Jewish parents on one side, Christian parents on the other. How do you raise the children? Okay. How do you raise the children?
Kim is a myth.
Okay. Yeah. How do you raise the children? Because I think it's absolutely important for you to see that both of you are going to have very strong reasons. Well, I want them to go to the synagogue. I want them to go to, the Catholic Church. I want them to go to a Protestant church. I want them to go where there's a children's church. Well, we never had children's church, and I think they need to be in worship. Man, there are feelings across the board. Okay? Listen, y'all. If there was a point that I would love to make about religious overtones, learn to have spiritual services in your house long before you go to that other building, whatever that is. Okay? Pray with your children. Read Bible stories to them. Talk about them. Go get a children's Bible. Okay? Introduce them to God, okay, and to prayer, and even to some songs. Jesus loves me, this I know. Introduce them to those long before they get there. And then the kids will have some kind of concept before they get there. Problem is, we want the preacher, the choir, the deacons, whatever the service, to show them how it's done. And listen,
I ain't say none of that at home.
in my church, we do not have a cantor. Anybody know what a cantor is? That's the one who sings the songs in the Jewish synagogue. The cantor. And what is he singing? Something out of the Psalms. Okay? Now, oh, how I love Jesus. I don't find it in any of the 150 Psalms. There may be a line.
And he's singing it in Hebrew.
Right. Okay. And in a meter, you don't understand. Oh, worship the Lord in the goodness of holiness.
That's English.
All right. Hey, listen, cantor. And I'm not poking fun. I have been to many a service. Okay, when I was in Israel.
I really think it's a brave thing on any couple's part to come together with two different religious backgrounds.
It needs to enter into the conversation. Things I wish I'd known before we got married. Because
I mean, if you knew I was Jewish and I knew you was Catholic, we knew that. Okay, so I don't know what you can expect out of that, except for discussion after discussion after discussion, especially when children come along.
Right. I had to ask you if Sammy Davis Jr. was a member of your church.
What?
Go back. All right, sorry.
I'm just saying. I'm just keeping it 100.
Right.
You know,
Right. Religious overtones. Listen, y'all, it is a major area. That's why it's in
while you were dating, you never adorned the doorstep of the Catholic church where your wife goes, and she never adorned the doorstep of the synagogue where you go. That is a major problem.
Listen, absolutely.
Major.
Well, watch this. If we can go to some concerts, if we can go to the bar, we can go
We
to
done
the
been everywhere
club.
else together.
Right, we've been everywhere else, but not to church.
Not to church.
That's an issue.
Major.
Right. Fortunately, I was a member of her father's church. I was actually on staff at her father's church. That's why we work together so closely. Of course, she's going to be there because that's daddy.
He took me away from my daddy.
Yeah, and it was like, well, there was no question about where we were going to get married, was there? No. See what I'm saying?
He tried it.
No.
He wanted to go to London. He said, let's just go
that's
to
right.
London and get married. I said, are you serious? I said, no, that would not sit well with me or my daddy. I said, we got to come down East Mount Zion's aisle. I got to come down that aisle.
Right. And her dad was like, no, they got to see Beverly.
Yeah.
They got to see Beverly. Right.
Well, they had seen all my other sisters. Why would I take off?
Right.
Right.
So, anyways, religious overtones, got to go there. Okay. As time's rolling on. All right. The next one, patterns of behavior. Okay. So, number one, holiday traditions. 2, expectations of all kinds.
Yeah.
3, religious overtones. 4, patterns of behavior. Now, that's not so bad until you find that irritating pattern of behavior.
And of course, you
You didn't let me finish.
okay, sorry.
Okay, no.
And distance, proximity does have a play in behavior
Yes.
of in-laws within your marriage. Of course, if they live a good ways away, it's not as difficult to deal with in most cases. If they right around the corner, yeah, problem. If they're in the same house, and there are situations like that, major problem.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to tell you what.
Yeah.
In-laws in your house for a period of time, weeks, while the baby's being born, expected, and they've got some irritating behaviors. Woo, man, that could be trouble. Here's one. Okay, I'm going to go back to the Ukraine. I was in Kiev. Okay, Kiev. Some Americans say Kiev, but it's Kiev. Okay, in Ukraine. I ate in a number of homes of family members while in Kiev.
Yeah.
Right. They have, well, there was one family, and it may have been, I'm not going to say this is all Ukrainians because it's not. I don't believe it is. But in this one, they were very playful. Okay. And what they did, and we ate there several times at this particular home because they were part of our group.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They had this little thing because there's a grown father, mother, and some grown sons. And they had this little contest where they would belch at dinner. I cannot tell you how some of the Americans that were with me were just aghast. They're like, oh my gosh, how can we put up with that? How can we? Listen, that's their tradition. Okay, so it's a little funny. Listen, get over it. We're not going to be there forever. All right, so that's probably one of those way out examples where somebody's got a behavior like, I can't believe that they're outwardly belching at the table. Or another, yeah, I get it. How about coming to the table without washing your hands? How about leaving the table without asking to be excused? How about reaching over into a bowl and maybe there's some green beans with potatoes and you pull the potato out and put it on your plate? Seen it. fingers.
Was I there? Was I there?
How about okay, so you're doing something, you're spreading something, and you take your thumb, you wipe the knife, and you lick it, but you put the knife right back on the thing. You see what I'm saying? Irritating. It don't take but a couple of those, and you're like, hey, I'm not doing that. Not another time. Make sure there's plenty of knives in here. Make sure there's some serving utensils because they're not
you know
reaching.
what? I've had enough. This was great,
right.
but I'm good.
Or you got a family at the table. I'm not going to tell on one of our cousins. Okay, at the table, Uncle doesn't realize what Uncle Charlie's up against, and the first thing they do is take that fork, grab the breast. Only 2 breasts in the whole pile of chicken.
Everybody, who on here when your mama fried that chicken? And even if Daddy wasn't present, everybody had an assigned piece of chicken. You knew your piece. And as children, we knew the breast was not our piece of chicken. That was Daddy's piece. There was a second one. He got it the next day. Okay.
The second one was in the kitchen. Okay.
Okay.
There was only 1 breast on the table because the one person who knew the breast was on the table.
Both of the breasts in our house belonged to Daddy. Both of them. When Mama fried the whole chicken, the 2 breasts was Daddy.
So you got a guest at the table, another male in the house who sees the breast, who happens to be of size, and sticks that fork in that breast. And Daddy's sitting there looking at him. You done lost your mind.
No, Daddy said, and Mama said, Charles. He said, she said, shh, don't say that. He said, I am too gonna say something.
Hey, you learned the hard way. But don't take that breast.
That cousin, he is a sweetheart. I love him to pieces. I know he remembers that. And he probably, if he listens to this now, he's probably busting the gut.
We didn't call him. I didn't call him by name.
Yeah.
Now,
no, we didn't call him.
I want to tell you about my experience. How I knew that A. Charles Bowie got the breast. Because I was invited to the meal. And I'm looking around. And I'm watching different ones dip. Everybody tiptoeing around that breast.
There ain't nobody touching it.
I ain't touching the breast.
I'm not touching it.
I got the idea. Okay, you got to be wise enough to realize it. And Dad looked over his glasses and said, Mel, you want to get some chicken? I said, no, Dad, I'll get it after you.
Let me see which piece is yours.
He said, you like breast? I said, I do prefer the white meat. He said, that's the breast, right? I said, yeah. He said, Mel, you go ahead and get that piece right there. He said, hi, Miss
Boyd got another one. You got another.
I knew whose breast that. I was like, listen, you better give it to me because I ain't taking it. Or I was going to eat nothing but vegetables that day. And remember those green beans with the potato? Oh yeah. Yes. I was going to get them. And
green beans with red skin potatoes.
Absolutely. And, there was salad there, some Jell-O and stuff. I was going to have a good time. I was not going to touch that breast. Dad knew that he could see me looking around. He looked over those glasses. Like, look, I tell you, I'll give it to you. All right. So when I heard the story, I was like, man, you better look around. That's 1 male and all females in the house. Listen, you know whose breast that belongs to.
Right. You knew.
So, anyways, I've been around him long enough that was some laugh. Dad would talk about that for some time.
Well, one of the things, and I don't know where we are right now, Daddy, but one of the things we've been telling different stories and even sharing some stories of our own as it relates to in-laws. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface of the different scenarios and the different dynamics and difficulties that come with marrying someone else and marrying into that family. And sometimes, depending on how it started, it will create problems down the road. if the wedding uh, wasn't really planned, but it had to happen abruptly or sooner than everybody was ready. And so you didn't really have that chance or even had enough courage to want to even meet your in-laws because it was about this situation more than it was about everybody. But one of the things that I know about the grace of God in any situation, what is natural to us as human beings can only become supernatural if God is in the picture. And the two of you have a relationship with the Lord, even if one of you has a relationship with the Lord. Because the natural it's just natural. It comes easy. Anger, whatever it is, the natural comes easy. But as children of God, we have to allow God to enter into the situation, whatever it looks like. And some situations can be very tough and take a few years to turn around, depending on how it was entered into.
It's not going to be. It's not going to be fast.
Right. But the one thing I do know is that you don't gain anything by force. So if I were to give you a word of wisdom and caution, because whenever you try to force something, it's going to backfire on you, especially when you're dealing with grown adults. You don't win anything by force. So as bad as we want, sometimes some of us, as bad as we want our spouses to be a part of our family, or vice versa, either way, sometimes you have to allow that thing to just happen on its own. Because when you force it, it can backfire on you.
You're going to get pushback.
You're going to get pushback. So you allow things to happen. Just like Gary Chapman said, find out what the love language of your mother-in-law, the grandmother. In some cases, some of our spouses weren't raised by their parents. They were raised by a grandmother. Find out the love languages of those significant people in your spouse's lives, the ones who helped to raise them. Just find that out and capitalize on that. Accentuate the positive so that eventually the negative will be back here and you're focused on the positive. It's nothing like being loved and appreciated the way you would like to be. And there are going to be those times, and this is where the supernatural comes in. There are going to be those times where you will extend to them and try to meet them, knowing their love language or just knowing some things that your spouse has shared with you that they like. And you may have extended yourselves, but when you extend yourself, know you're doing it because you love this person that you're married to. Amen. You love this person that you're married to. So you're going to be kind to their people. And it may not get reciprocated. But here's where.
Please don't look for that.
But here's where your partner, your husband or your wife, needs to come to your defense. Now, if you're doing what you trying to do and can do to reach out to your in-laws and you don't get the reciprocation, then it's that spouse's responsibility to check family so that you don't have to. But when you step back and allow family to mistreat the one you say you love, that's a problem. That's a problem. And you have to go into deep prayer. Ask God to give you strength. Hold your tongue. Because, whatever you sow in peace, whenever you sow in peace, you always reap the righteousness of God. And that's what makes our marriages supernatural, and not just natural. Supernatural marriages built on the love of Christ. And that's what marriage is. Marriage is what God is an example of how God has his relationship with his people. And you know how we are. Y'all know how God's people are. They fickle, twixt in between, run off, do what they want, and then come back, ask God to forgive them when find them buying. You know, we mess up, we tear up, we build up, we do all these things. We're very temperamental, just like a bride. And that's what marriage is. It's about weaving and cleaving. It's about, just like Dr. Woodard talked about in the beginning. You know, we have our love stories, but love stories should be life stories.
Often not.
It should be more than, here comes the bride. It's got to be, my soul has been anchored in the Lord. That's what makes a natural marriage a supernatural marriage that can withstand some stuff and go through some stuff.
And another phrase, throw on there, love over fear.
Oh, yeah. Your love be greater than your fear.
Let it be. And, you know, if we don't remember that God said that a husband ought to leave his father and mother and cleave unto his wife, okay, if we don't have that leave, you cannot properly cleave and weave. Leave, cleave, weave. Okay, LCW. It's important because if I don't ever leave, then I still want to try. I want to create something like a Venn diagram, you know, have a part over here and a part over here. It's not going to work. You got to let go. When I took her from the east side of Cleveland to the west side of Cleveland, 25 miles away from her parents, close enough that we could get to them, but far enough that we could build our own family, that was intentional. We talked about that because it was like, look, I'm not tripping over family. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to do what we want to do. And when they come out here, they're going to come out here with intention. Now, every time her dad came a lot more than the two of them, her mom. Right. He'd have to call. He said, hey, can I get directions? Yeah, we'll give you directions. And we probably gave him directions 50 times. Anyways.
I remember when we decided to build a house, our first home, and Mama said, why y'all building it all the way out there? And I said, well, it's closer. He has to be 15 minutes away. And the truth of the matter is he had to be 15 minutes away.
Be within 30 minutes, but wanted to be 15, 20 minutes away from the hospital.
Because he was on call. Mm-hmm. So we couldn't. And where he worked was far away from where Mama and Daddy.
I was breaking the law when I was getting in there anyways, but we literally, you know, it was close enough to the hospital, but far enough away from the hospital. And then it made it so that it was farther away from them. And so we came in a ways to the church, came in a ways to get to them, but managed to get to them as often as we needed to. And we are the same way with, well, our daughter is the one that's here with us, she and Jonathan and their 4 children. As much as we love those babies and they love us, I think both of them can tell you that we don't just show up unannounced. Now, when I'm there keeping him, Grandpa will show up while Grandma is there. But when the whole family's there, or when it's the 2 of us coming to them, we make that phone call. Right. I'm not just going to come by, you know. Not going to just show up at their home. That is their home. That's their privacy. Don't ever want to walk up on something. You know, it's just so much that I think that you just want people to, you want to do the same thing to them that you want done to you. And I think about that all the time. That is a rule in mine. Speaking of rules, let's go to number 5. Okay. Your in-laws also may have strongly held religious beliefs that differ from yours. I want to take one word out of that sentence, and the word I want to take out is religious. They may have beliefs that differ from you. Forget just religious beliefs. A whole bunch of beliefs. Right. All right. How about this? We don't believe in spanking children. One family didn't, another family does. We believed in timeout. Now we believed in jacking them up. No, you know what? They say, oh my gosh. Talk about
I
the
must
trouble.
say, the Reverend Woodard, he did try to jack my little boys up. And my daddy would jump in and say, I would say, Mel, Mel, you're being too rough. And he said, Beverly, let Mel have those boys. He said, you don't know nothing about boys. He said, and your mama don't either. I said, huh? And mama said, what? He said, do you have any sons? She said, well, no. And he said, well, then you don't know anything about raising boys.
Wise
He
words.
said, he ain't going to kill him. That's his flesh and blood. He said, I'd rather him hit him than the police. He said, so let him have those boys. And you take Jazzy. You take care of Jazzy.
And listen, the boys, and this is not to the detriment of Jasmine, the boys, very mannerable. They treat women right. Okay. And if one of the girls thought something wrong, I'm like, I know him. No, he's not going to go there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That may be what you've seen otherwise, but no, not these boys. They don't put their hands on women. They don't mistreat them. They don't do a lot of things. Listen, we got all that stuff worked out in those years. And my boys, I feel extremely proud of each of them in their own right. They have this idea. They've seen me with mom. They've never seen me put my hands on their mother. They haven't heard me, cuss her out. I may have said a bad word here or there. It's a moment.
Call me on my name.
No. You know what? I'm not going to use. I hate that B word. You guys, you know what it is. I hate that word. Okay, and I'm certainly not going to apply it to her. And literally, we're getting ready to celebrate 32 years here in a few days. In 32 years, never put my hands, never said that. And here's the point: I've treated her with kid gloves. Her father knew and said, "Hey, listen, I know you're going to take care of her. Absolutely, I'd fight a bear, lion, tiger. I don't care what it is. Didn't matter what it was. If you put your hands on her, then that's either the day I have a victory or, I'm going to go down in defeat and I'll see you on the other side."
I can remember, and I got to tell this story quick. I can remember Melvin. He was in high school and he was playing quarterback and he had a lot of pressure on him at the time. And I asked him something and he kind of snapped at me. So I only mentioned it to his dad. I said, Melvin snapped at me today. And I said, I don't know what it was. And this was when he was in high school. I said, I think there's a lot of pressure on him being quarterback of this predominantly white team. And he never said a word to me. He just looked at me. This one. So Melvin comes in from practice. And he's sitting in the office. He said, Melvin, is that you? He said, yes, sir. So he comes out of his office. He goes to the kitchen. Melvin, of course, is doing what all the boys used to do, go straight to the refrigerator or the cabinet looking for food. They're always hungry. And he says, you need to shut that refrigerator door. He said, and close that cabinet. He said, huh? He said, I'm hungry. He said, no. You're not going to come in this kitchen and eat nothing your mother made and disrespect her. He said, you don't get to eat today. He said, huh? He said, did you snap at your mother? He hesitated. He said, don't snap at your mother. Ever. Don't snap at your mother. And, I was like, I did not ask you to say nothing to that boy. I was just having a conversation with you. But what I did not know is what he was going to do is confront him about that. But so the boys know. And Jasmine too know how he feels about me. And I can't tell you how many times at the school they said that our kids were respectful. The boys were coachable. They always did what the coaches told them to do. Even though at home their daddy was telling them to do something else. They would tell their daddy, like, coach is not going to let me do that. He says, what's wrong with him? And I said, coaches, I have to do what the coach tell me to do, Dad. I love you, but I got to do what the coach tell. But, so it was instilled in them the treasure of a woman, the importance and the value of a woman. And even if they've slipped up, maybe missed the mark, in some way devalued a female, they knew they had an example of what it meant to value, take care of a woman.
There was enough fear in them, the boys, and that, honest to God, there was enough fear in them. But one of them raised up one time and said something to me real quick. And I said, who are you talking to? And he said, well, I got feelings too. I said, well, those aren't going to last but just another minute. Because if you raise your voice at me again, that'll be the last time you raise your voice at me. All of a sudden, it was a whole nother picture. It's like that. I'm sorry. Okay. I demanded respect for me and for my wife, their mother. And if you couldn't respect it, and you were getting ready to hit that door, because literally, there was not going to be disrespect if we've been doing all kinds of things, breaking our back, trying to make a way somehow or another, and be with you in your mess. Now, the one thing my kids never knew is whether or not I would save them in their mess. And it happened on several occasions. And it took me something, because literally my dad wasn't going to save me if I had a mess, if I created the mess. But if we were in the mess together, of course, there would be some create. We had a lot of mess together. Okay. But Dad said to me only one time, honest to goodness, I would not lie on my father. He's not here to defend. Only one time. He said, you have never talked back to me in your entire life, but you've done it this time. I was 23 years old. I was mad at him. I was feeling myself a little bit. And he I don't know. Well, I do know, but let's just say I don't know. And I was like, really? And he's like, listen, I ought to jack you up. And and the thing that I was thinking is, I know you're not going to do that, because at that point I had already made it up in my mind. Well, I'm going to take a butt whooping today, but that's going to be the sum total of it.
I ain't going to
No, listen, I'm going to pin him. I'm going to do something. When I was 23 years old, I was like a piece of steel. And that's not just words. I was trying to get to the NFL, and I was rock solid. And I thought, I'm going to pin him down. I'm going to do something. He ain't going to hit me. He may hit me once or twice. Can't kill me. But not today.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
I got it. So that was just wishful thinking. No. But anyways, but I remember, but I was 23.
Yeah.
I wasn't 15.
No.
I wasn't 10.
That was nothing happening.
Okay. And I think about that. And so, I demanded respect. I got it. I gave it to my father. I expected my boys to give it to me. So we have these beliefs. That as long as you're in this house, you're going to eat what is cooked. And if you don't like it, well, you're going to lump it. Right. As long as you're in this house, there are certain things you're not going to do. Okay. And it took a long time to kind of break some of those rules. Okay.
It took a while.
Well, it took a while, and then we had guests in the house and blah, blah, blah. literally, for almost 10 years, we opened our house to guests. Because
mainly
the kids,
mainly Joshua's guests.
yeah.
Joshua would
Oh,
bring
my-
home 4 or 5 fellas.
Lord have mercy, and those guys
Every
would
break he
stay
got from
for
school.
weeks.
And
Yeah, oh Lord.
he
So
said, "Well, they can't go home, Mom, because they got to go all the way back to Texas or wherever they were from." He said, "So I told them they could come stay with us."
yeah, we got plenty of room. I'm like, Lord, I think at one time, this honest God's truth, I think at one time we had 8 or 9 boys living in our basement. The basement was 2,200 square feet, so they had a lot of room.
Right.
Okay, and so they were living down there.
Yeah,
And,
it may have been spring break or something.
Yeah,
some kind of break.
So, anyways, grateful to God for those things. But here, so we've gone a ways. We've been on here already about 70 minutes, gone over those 5 things. What are those 5 things again, Pastor? Well, the 5 are this: that there are holiday traditions. 2, that there are expectations on all sides, from the couple towards their in-laws and from the in-laws to the couple, that you're going to include us in your life. I mean, after all, we've been a part of your life up until now. You're going to cut us off? Okay, we don't get to hang out with the grands. We don't get to keep them. Boy, you want to make your in-laws mad. Tell them that they can't, the kids never stay with them. Ooh, oh my gosh. Anyways, religious overtones. That's why I pulled religious out of that last one, because we kind of talked about that before. Patterns of behavior, irritating, troublesome patterns, leaving up the toilet seat.
That ain't troublesome. That's irritating.
Okay, irritating. Okay. How about staying up late, watching television till 1 a.m. and you got to go to work at 6 a.m.? We were at the house and these kids would be staying up 1, 2 o'clock and you could hear them in the basement. Now, we had a big house. We're on the, okay, right. Okay, the bottom, the basement at 2,200 square feet. We'll leave the rest alone. We were up on that upper level. We could still hear those guys partying, carrying on, and it'd be like, they need to go to sleep. And then, if they go out the window and the alarm would go off, you'd be like, oh, there's some irritation.
We thought they were going out the window. They were hot. And his friend didn't know that the windows had alarms on them. So he opened the window. And
basement windows, and man, the alarm go off, and then you're.
Josh looked at me. He's like, "Man, you don't know what you've done." I said, "You wait for it because he's coming down."
No, I'm just lying. You grab the shotgun, going, all right,
you ain't got no shotgun.
No.
He does not have a shotgun, y'all.
Who's coming up in this house? No.
He has no gun.
No. Listen. So I go down there, and I like, who opened the window? Nobody can fit. Who opened the window? Do I need to take fingerprints? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Woodard. I'm sorry. We were hot. Listen, don't open that daggone window. Oh, my God. Listen, all those boys who were on the football team with us, they would come up to us after every game like we were family, just love on us and whatnot. Listen, we thank you all so much because y'all adoptive sons. Y'all love us, even when they're having kids and families.
I had a couple of their mothers that called me to thank me for letting them stay with us.
Yeah. One stayed with us 4 years till he graduated.
Cool. He stayed with us 4 years?
Yeah, man.
Oh, on breaks.
Yeah.
He didn't stay with us.
Yeah. He was always coming home with us. You going back to Florida? No, I can't afford to go to Florida. My mom said, I got to go with y'all. Okay. All right. So listen, hey, there's some questions back 110, 111. Okay. Listen, requests versus demands. Man, I highlighted it. Look at all of them. I highlighted them. Listen, because they're all, if you notice, this one's held traditions. This one's expectations. This one's patterns of behavior. Notice that religious beliefs.
I really love number 7.
Yeah. How well have you learned to speak for yourself? Okay. Listen, we all need to learn to speak in the first person. You know how we drag other folk in it? Well, everybody's doing it. And everybody says this. How about you? What do you say?
And when you start a sentence or when you begin to make a statement, try to begin with I rather than you.
Woo. There's one for you.
And that's what he's saying there in number 7.
Mm-hmm.
In your normal conversations, how well have you learned to speak for yourself? When two of you have a disagreement, how often do you start your sentence with the word you as opposed to I?
Yep.
Discuss this with each other and focus on learning to speak. And I've heard about this in past, but this is a refresher for even me and him, he and I, instead of me saying, you know what, you did this, you made me feel this way, you do this. And instead of saying, I feel as though, or I'm feeling like you're doing this intentionally, or, if you put I on it, you are speaking for yourself. You're not imposing anything or placing anything or labeling anybody when you say I. And I always say I don't believe, I feel, but when you say you, honey, it's accusatory.
I turn off the alarm.
Don't start.
You see what I'm saying?
Don't start.
I took ownership. Anyways, inside joke. You guys got it. All right. So anyways, there are some questions. Here's the point of tonight. You are not marrying just an individual. You are marrying a family of beliefs, a family with a system, a family that has behaviors associated with it. All of us do it. So we learn to appreciate some things. Watch this.
Make requests more than we do demands.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to talk about
saying
HR.
to your in-laws,
Yes.
you know what? I really don't appreciate it if y'all just didn't show up and come over here whenever time you want. Instead, say, the last time you guys came over, it was great. We did enjoy you, but I had to stay up till midnight to finish something that I was supposed to have gotten done. So can we pick a day for you all to come over here, and then we'll make sure that time and space for you to come see the grands is there for you.
Right.
Instead of saying, don't be coming over here unannounced. Don't do that.
Right. And literally, you can gently push people in the direction that you want them to go. Hey, listen, this has been a great visit. Hey, listen, we need to set a date, a time for us to get together the next time. You don't want me to come on over here? I mean, literally, the conscious person says, maybe springing up all of a sudden is not good. Or we've got some things that we need to handle. And literally, everything in the family doesn't have to be done together, okay? Young couples learn that we might have to
we're finding that out with our own grown children.
Conquer and divide.
When we want them all here, same time, it just doesn't happen because they are grown. They have
schedules,
they have schedules, and so if we get them all here at one time, honey, that's a miracle.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, I don't want to cut it short, but I need you to know, and you guys just keep it in prayer. There is a family situation going on, and I have got family chiming in here that is trying to get my attention because something is going on, and I need to get to that.
Yes.
We need to get to that.
Yes.
So we love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of this tonight. Prayerfully, hopefully, this has been good. Please like, share, send it to anybody you want. Only one of the sessions was actually we pulled back on. As long as I don't go off on tangents and say crazy things,
I'm looking at the feed over here on this platform.
Yeah.
I think this is the most feed we've got on any session.
Yeah, absolutely. And it
when
literally
you talk about family and relationships.
I'm gonna tell you what, those stressors,
Yeah.
everybody's been under stress because of family.
Yeah.
Okay. And so God bless each and every one of you. Sister Woodard, she's great at getting back with you all.
Yes.
I'm terrible. I just say it out, and don't use that as an excuse. I'm just terrible. That my schedule is crazy.
Yeah.
Right now, I've got 2 crises that I've got to deal with yet tonight, and then get ready for tomorrow's school.
Yeah.
So know full well that the night is young. All
I
right.
love you too, Tristan.
Love you guys. Let's have a word of prayer, and we'll talk with you all, Lord willing, next week. Eternal God, Heavenly Father, thank you for this time. Grateful for what you are doing. And it is our prayer that we are rightfully dividing these words and expressing the will of the Spirit of God over the lives of these that hear. Thank you in advance. Lord, it's just a couple weeks and we'll have some evening classes and we'll need to probably make some adjustments. But Lord, thank you for the times that we have and the words that we're able to get across now. It's in the precious name of Jesus we pray and ask it all. Amen and amen. God bless you all. Love you. Love you.
y'all.
Love you. Talk to you
Bye-bye.
guys later. Bye.